Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder when I get off the train and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good afternoon, listeners. It is a balmy Tuesday here in suburban Chicago, and I am walking home from work. The cicadas are out in force. I'm sure you'll hear them underneath or perhaps over my voice for the rest of the walk home. In my backpack, I have the Return to Path of Carcosa, which is the next box set from the Arkham Horror line. I feel conflicted about the boxes for these because they come in these really nice sort of drawer-sized boxes, which I don't use because I have my own storage solution for the game. But I still like the boxes and have them, so I'm kind of mixed about their value as a proposition. They do come with dividers, though, that are very nice, and I use those, so I'll be excited to put those into the case. It also makes me want to bust Arkham Horror out again, which is hard to do because we've been so busy around my place these past few months. So today is my first episode recorded after the weekend spent at Chicago Protospiel. If you haven't been to or heard about a Protospiel before, it is a game testing event, not unlike Unpub, which is another playtesting event. The idea of a Protospiel is that you sign up to attend and you play games of other designers and then they play your designs. Generally in a 3-to-1 ratio, so for every 3 games that belong to someone else, one of your games should get played. Since most of the games are sort of 4-player games, often you end up getting into a group of 4 and then cycling through 4 games belonging to other people. It works out pretty well. I really enjoy Chicago Protospiel. It's my favorite game testing event of the year. This is our 4th Protospiel that we've attended, and it's turned out really good each time around. That said, the playtests we got at this year's event were not entirely satisfying. We had 2 playtests of our real-time dice drafting co-op game, and we had 2 tests of our mid to heavyweight Euro. I wouldn't really call it a heavyweight Euro, but if you don't play Euros, it's definitely on the heavier side. And we had 1 or 2 plays of our frenetic card game. The plays of our card game went fine. The plays of our Euro did not go great. In both cases, we ended up with players who were not ideally suited for the game, and as a result, the data for the whole play was kind of spoiled. Which leads to a lesson regarding playtests, which is to pick your audience carefully. And I think one of the things that really ended up being a benefit to us from doing the first exposure playtest hall at Gen Con was that we got audiences who had chosen our games specifically based on the descriptions they had. So they came in primed to do playtesting of the game we had. At Protospiel, it's a little more random in terms of what audience you're going to get for your game. And as a result, you end up with a mix of playtesters who may or may not fit the way your game works. In our case, particularly with our Euro game, both games we had people playing who don't really like or play Euro games. And the result was that the play didn't go very well. And it's hard to take the criticism or the commentary based on those plays with much reliability because the people playing aren't really the right fit for the game. This is a different problem than the problem of learning the game, right? If you have people who are a good fit for your game but they can't learn it, that's a different problem than people that aren't really a good fit for the game. So one thing we may need to do is get better at describing the game or describing it for people who want to play it because the mismatch there was kind of disappointing. No shade against the players we had. They were all very nice people, and it was really a pleasure getting to know them. It's just the playtest itself wasn't as productive as we would have liked. I did get to play a variety of games by other people that were really good. I think the standout game for me was a worker placement game themed around space travel. It pushed a lot of the buttons that I like. The economy was maybe a little too loose. I didn't feel quite the tightness that you like to see in a worker placement game, but generally it had a lot of neat systems and they were easily understood, delightfully played, and offered a good mix of choices and ways to spend your resources. So that one, I guess I don't want to say the name of it because I don't know how publicly one is supposed to share results from someone else's Protospiel design gameplay, but that was pretty good. We did also get to do an opportunity for the holy grail of playtesting, which is blind playtesting. Blind playtesting is not trying to figure out if your game works for people who are visually impaired. Dad joke there. Instead, blind playtesting is where you give your game and its rules to someone, and then you give and then you have them read it and teach somebody to play. So the advantage to doing a blind playtest is that you are able to see how well your rule set translates to people learning to play the game without the aid of you there teaching them or correcting them. And while Rob and I did observe the play, we did our darndest to not comment on how the play went, to not discuss the experience of, not discuss the learning that they were doing, and generally to let them do their gameplay without us interfering. There were a couple rough spots, and I definitely took a lot of notes that will shape how the next draft of the rulebook comes out. But the long and short of it is, our blind playtester was able to teach the game to the other person that they sat down with, and then they were able to work together to play the game properly. They made a couple minor rules goofs, but nothing outrageous. We saw a nice mix of intuition and rules lookup where they had ideas about how the rules should work. They looked up those rules and found that they in fact did or didn't work the way they thought. Sometimes the player who had not read the rule book would intuit things about the way the rules were supposed to work that were based on graphic design choices or other elements about how the game was built, and generally those worked correctly. So overall, it was a really satisfying viewing of people playing the game because they were able to figure out the game based on the rules, and they were able to have a fun time doing it. Can't ask for more than that. In exchange, we did do a blind play test of their game, and I would say it was an interesting thing. We were able to make the game play mostly the way it's supposed to once we got past the setup. The main challenge with their rulebook was that it really wasn't in blind play test form yet. I think they were starting to test the question of, does the rule set teach the game? But they hadn't done a close read of it, and so there was quite a bit of, unlike our game where we tried not to answer questions for them, tried to make them read the rule book, I had to ask questions because there were basic things missing from the rule book. Like, the rule book said that the rule book did not include, the game did not include a board, but the setup instructions assumed you would use a board, for example. And a number of the ways that the rules were set up assumed that a board was available to use or was guiding you in certain elements of gameplay. So that part was not ideal. But once we got the game going and worked our way around those problems, we were generally able to play pretty well, and I think that the person whose game it was able to get some solid data out of our test. So what's next for Rattlebox Games? The blind play test, having gone well, was very encouraging. I think the next step, we're going to continue refining the rulebook, but the next step is to make a rules video so that the next set of blind playtesters, because I had a reference in there to a rules video, and the blind playtester said that they did go and look at the link to see if the video was there, and it was not there, which fair enough, it wasn't. But if we were to have that video there, I would like that potential video to be part of the suite of things we offer as ways to learn the game. It seems like if you have a video about how to learn and you're going to use that, having that available as part of the choices is an important step. So what was the third thing? Oh, so the third thing that I really enjoyed that I wanted to mention about Protospiel Chicago was the fantastic people that I saw there. Because we've been going 4 years now, and we've gotten to the point where we're starting to see a lot of the same faces, a lot of the same designers, and it's really fun to get to know people and make connections. So we see people like, hey, good to see you again. I'm excited to see how this game turns out. It's, they'll have a game that they've been working on that's like a new version of it. So that it's really fun to see the evolution of games and to see the same designers year in and year out who are working on things. It's fun to have that experience. It's also fun to meet new people. Everybody's generally pretty friendly and open at the event, and excited to have people play their games and excited to play other people's games. So getting to know people and getting to meet them is a really great aspect of the hobby, because it can be a little bit lonely. And so to be able to have other people that you network with, I think is pretty lovely. So what's next? Like I said, continuing to refine that design, continuing to work on a couple other designs that we've been cultivating. Overall, lots of irons in the fire. So, have you gotten to go to playtesting events before, dear listener? What kind of feedback do you give to people? What kind of feedback do you like to give? Or do you like to get if you're a designer? How does your design work result in playtesting or lead to playtesting? Or what kind of design work do you do that's playtesting? All of these questions and more can be answered over on Board Game Geek Guild 3269, where we would love to hear from you to get a sense of your experience as a playtester. Otherwise, that's about it for me. I thank you for joining me on this balmy Tuesday afternoon, and I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.